Mr. Kessler, you are recognized for your 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Jordan and Ranking Member Nadler.
Pull that mic close, Mr. Kessler.
Thank you to members of the committee and to fellow witnesses, some of whom have suffered the deepest and most unfair personal losses. And thank you to Kylie Murdoch, my research assistant, sitting behind me. But to members of the committee, I've got to ask, why are we here? Why are we in New York City? Yes, in this massive city of 8.5 million people piled atop each other on a speck of land barely 300 square miles in size, awful things happen, awful crimes happen, awful losses are suffered. But as unfortunate and tragic as it is, we live in a violent country like no other advanced nation, and the fact is that New York City is not only safer than most large cities in America, it is safer than most cities of any size, and on a per capita basis, New York City is safer than most of the states of the members sitting on the dais on the majority side. In 2020, for example, New York City's murder rate was 18% below the national average for the entire United States. Mr. Chairman, Ohio's murder rate was 59% higher than New York City's. Louisiana's murder rate was 251% higher than New York City's. The murder rate in Texas was 42% higher than New York City. South Carolina, 126% higher. Florida, 32% higher. Kentucky, 70% higher. North Carolina, 57% higher. Indiana, 72% higher. Arizona, 35% higher. Alabama, 119% higher. A hearing about the ravages of crime could be in Alabama with its towering homicide rate and a mass killing that just happened yesterday, or Louisville, where 5 people were murdered in the blink of an eye at a downtown bank, or the murder capital of California, which is not Los Angeles or San Francisco or Oakland, but in Speaker McCarthy's district of Kern County with its county seat of Bakersfield, and it has been the murder capital of California for 6 years running. I'm focusing on the year 2020, but it's not just that 1 year. It's the entire century. From 2000 to 2020, if New York City was a state, its murder rate would rank smack dab in the middle at 22nd in the nation and be about 1/4 the murder rate of the entire state of Mississippi. And the borough of Manhattan is even safer than the rest of New York City. From 2000 to 2020, Manhattan's murder rate would rank 30th among the 50 states. I need to say a word about guns and about the politics of crime because A, 79% of homicides are by firearm, and B, I had both the pleasure and misfortune of working on the Mike Dukakis for President campaign, and I know how potent and irresistible the issue of crime is in politics. If someone is a victim of a gun crime in New York City, dollars to donuts, that gun was not originally purchased in New York State. And I'll double down and bet that crime gun originated from either Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, or Virginia. There is massive gun trafficking that ferries guns from those 5 southern states with weak gun laws up I-95 to states like New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. And I know this because in 1996, I was working for a Brooklyn congressman from Park Slope named Chuck Schumer. And we FOIA'd the FBI data for every gun in America that was recovered in a crime and successfully traced. And we uncovered gun trafficking patterns all across the nation. And practically nothing has been done legislatively ever since except to make it harder, much harder, to get data on the origin of crime guns. That brings me to the politics of crime. Wouldn't it be great if this hearing was about how illicit guns are trafficked to places like New York City, Newark, Boston, Philly, Chicago, and how those guns terrorize the innocent people living in those places and elsewhere? That's the sort of thing Congress would do if it really cared about what was happening with regard to crime in New York City. Mr. Chairman and Mr. Nadler, there are 8.5 million people living in New York City on this tiny plot of land. Bad things happen here. No doubt. But the miracle of New York City is how well this enormous chunk of humanity mostly gets along and suffers less crime than much of the nation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler.